I'm here.
Awesome. So
I'm here.
awesome.
Okay,
Alright.
you guys should be live now.
Welcome everyone. Let's start our city council work session for Tuesday, February 16th. Topic to start this half hour is pedestrian crosswalk standards at my request. Julia?
Yeah, I think I'm leading. I'm sharing my screen, I hope. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. So yeah, I am here along with Bob Galati. We envision this as really being the start of a conversation. We want to kind of lay out some information, get your comments, questions, and then we'll likely need to follow up. But we're here to talk about pedestrian crosswalk standards. Our understanding of the meeting is really to discuss the design considerations that go into crosswalks, with particular emphasis of signalized crosswalks, discuss the factors that are considered in the design, and then take questions. There are a few different types of crosswalks, so I just kind of want to put that out there so that we know what we're referring to. Unsignalized and unmarked crosswalks are basically any intersection. Any intersection by Oregon law is a pedestrian crosswalk, or a legal place for pedestrians to cross. What people are more familiar with is the unsignalized marked crosswalks, which can be at an intersection and maybe mid-block. And I'll give you my little asterisks in just a second. The decision to mark a crosswalk is based on traffic volumes, speeds, anticipated pedestrian volumes, physical characteristics of the roadway. And then there's also signalized intersections. And then those require signal warrants, a little bit more detailed in engineering. It can be on demand, meaning a pedestrian pushes a button and then the lights flash temporarily, or a full traffic control stop where there's actually a signal that stops cars. So the RFFB is basically just more of a warning sign versus a full traffic control, which is a stop light that is instigated by the pedestrian. Just a note, mid-block crossings, while you can have unmarked or unsignalized or signalized mid-block crossings, those always need to have a traffic engineering review to make sure that they're appropriately placed and that they're not going to cause more harm than good.
Hey, Julia, just a jargon question. You say signal warrants. What's a signal warrant?
It's when a signal is warranted. Bob, can you give the more technical detail on that? It's essentially
a signal warrant is a process by which you compare the operation parameters of the system that you're designing for, and it has to meet a certain baseline system level before it would be acceptable to implement that signal. So a signal warrant is like what Julia is saying, is it meets a warrant, which means it meets the baseline criteria that warrants a signal being put in.
So that to me sounds like that there are some folks that would put signalized crosswalks all over the city, just everywhere.
Right.
They may not be warranted, is what you're saying. Okay, I just want to make sure I understand. So,
But be clear that there are two different types. So there is ones that require a signal warrant, and then there's signalized that do not require a warrant.
No, basically.
Then you're lying on your own presentation.
Basically, you have. I have to there are conditions. I think Julia will get into them, but to make a simple analysis is when you have like an intersection that is signalized, you know, it's four-way stop with signals. Pedestrian crossings are included with that signal. It has to meet signal warrants. There is no condition under which a pedestrian, other than a school crossing. The only thing, the school crossing, it does not need to meet signal warrants because it is a temporary system that it only operates during certain times of the school time frame. But everything else basically has to meet signal warrants. A mid-block crossing, you have to show that it meets the criteria that would warrant a mid-block crossing. There's no such thing as a signalized crossing that is strictly for pedestrians that does not meet signal warrants, that doesn't go through a signal warrant analysis.
So
To be
Craig,
clear,
this is,
go ahead, Tim.
yeah, I just want to make sure I understand this. Are you talking about the process in our current code? I mean, couldn't the council just say, we want a signalized crossing at XYZ intersection and pass a resolution and make it happen without a warrant?
You could, so long as it's not a rectangular rapid flashing beacon.
So let me continue, because I think we might be getting maybe into the more detail that you guys are getting at. I think if I understand correctly, Councillor Rosner, you were asking, or I think that was Councillor Rosner, can we have a traffic signal at any intersection that we want just a normal stop traffic controlled intersection? Is that what you were asking?
What I'm asking is there statute or Oregon regulation or code that says to put in a signalized crossing we have to meet certain conditions, or can we just choose to put one in anyways?
Are you talking about a pedestrian only signal or a vehicle signal?
Well, just for the sake of this one, a pedestrian only.
And my understanding is that it needs to meet warrants. Is that correct, Bob?
It does. If it's pedestrian only, it has to meet warrants. That's state OR, OAR, blah, 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 and federal code. So, that is what it's, that's why it's in there, is so that we just don't add crossing signals all over the place, wherever we want them, because sometimes adding a crossing signal creates more of a safety issue than not.
And I'm not having that we do that. I'm just trying to understand the regulatory framework behind your answer to the previous question.
So let me continue through the presentation, because I think it might illuminate this. And again, we did not envision this presentation would necessarily answer all the questions. We wanted to understand what the questions were. We knew that there was a desire to have a work session on sort of the design for crosswalks, and it's more complicated than that. And so we're going to explain kind of what goes into it, and then get your guys' questions. So signalized crossings, the crosswalk, either signalized or unsignalized designs, are regulated by federal and state design requirements. We don't actually have a design detail that you can pull out of our Sherwood design manual for a crosswalk, because it's really dependent on so many different situations. And then when I was putting this presentation together today, the focus was really on the mid-block. I can never remember what the RRF, it's rapid
rectangular rapid flashing beacon.
For that signalized and other signalized crossings. Again, it needs to be based on warrants, looking at traffic volume, speed, sight distance, existing road conditions, and design. The exact design is going to vary depending on those situations. And then we utilize our on-call traffic consultant to provide the design for those crossings. The federal regulations that go into this are multiple. So there's federal regulations and state regulations. At the federal level, the manual uniform traffic control device regulates, and then there's an additional interim memo, interim approval for the rectangular rapid flashing beacons that specifically guides those. There are public right-of-way accessibility guidelines, and then the ADA for curb ramps. Bob, do you want to add anything here? I'm going through this pretty quickly.
I think it depends on what type of questions people may have. ADAG, if you look at ADAG, that is strictly for the ramps and the American with Disability Acts, and how all those parameters are established for the design and construction of the ped ramps. You don't have a we have specific details, but those specific details are basically uniform throughout the country. ADAG dictates it, and we deal with it. ProWag is a part of ADAG, in that ProWag is how do you make room for all the ADAG requirements and the acquisition of right-of-way. People can't say you can't get right-of-way if you have an ADAG situation that requires it. ProWag tells you you have to get the right-of-way to accommodate it. The argument of we can't put in an ADAG requirement because there's not enough right-of-way is not allowed by law. The rectangular rapid flashing systems, they were introduced a fairly long time ago, but they are only allowed under certain conditions, and those conditions come down from FHWA, Federal Highway Commission, Highway Administration, that allows the states to utilize it under certain conditions. So rapid rectangular flashing beacons are usable. However, they have to be designed to meet the criteria established at FHWA, and we don't have a choice there. That basically is, we have to do that. And many times, depending on what we're trying to do, we may even have to get state approval to implement that. Generally, the state doesn't, like we did that with Langer Farms Parkway. The state was saying, well, it's on a local road and you guys are okay. You still have to build it according to our standards. They gave us approval for it. That was acceptable. But that letter was what we needed to do to be able to construct that. The manual of uniform traffic control devices is everything. It doesn't matter whether it's state, county, city, you follow that for all your signals. Signals and signage come from that manual. We've got it in our office and we use it. That's the Bible. You basically start there. If you want to change it, you want to do something that's not in there, then you've got a little bit more of a heavy load to lift, because then you're going to have to basically provide the analysis that shows that whatever you're proposing works.
So federal regulations, and again, when Bob says there, we have to follow the criteria, it's not like there's 3 criteria. It's a book that we have to make sure. That's why our on-call traffic consultant essentially helps us with the design to make sure that we're crossing all of our T's and dotting all of our I's. We also have state regulations, primarily ODOT, and there are supplements to the MUTCD that Bob was referring to. There's additional guidance on pedestrian crossing and signals, school safety, highway design manuals, lighting. I'm not going to go through all this, but so there's other things that we have to make sure that we're complying with that are sort of narrowing down the federal guidelines to make sure that it's compliant with the state guidelines. Anything to add there, Bob?
Only that the Oregon supplements, they adopt and accept the MUTCD, but they also add some slight modifications that have been approved by Federal Highway Administration so that current laws, the traffic laws in Oregon can be maintained. So that's the only route on some of those, and those changes are pretty minor, comparatively speaking. So the supplemental is really specific to the main MUTCD, and it only changes a few items just so that they comply with Oregon traffic laws.
Thanks. And then other design considerations that go into the design of the crosswalks are the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials policy manual that provides guidance, and then the ITE manual that provides some additional information on assumption, kind of things that can be assumed from traffic volumes, traffic patterns, that kind of stuff. So all of those things, the federal, state, and these guidance documents play into any specific situation and any specific crosswalk design.
Just to add one thing, Julia, all these documents have been adopted into our standards manual. They are part and parcel of our standards manual. So,
Of course. Okay, let's move it along.
So, and really this is, I mean, this is the second to the last slide. Basically, crosswalk, I mean, this is what we have to share with you at this moment, which is that the crosswalk design decisions are made by the roadway conditions, including the width, location, surrounding uses, sight distance, taking into factor the traffic speeds, traffic volumes, federal and state guidance, and then it's put together for a traffic engineer to design. And that's essentially how we get to our crosswalk designs. I know that there are questions and comments, and so I guess we want to get to those so that we can come back with more detail and information if there's anything specific that you want us to focus on, answer, address, that kind of thing.
Great. So I brought this forward because I truly do not like those flashing strobe yellow light apparatus that we've installed. And I mean, truly, I've bitched about it for years. It's not pretty much since I got back in here, and since Joe didn't ever, call a meeting, I did. I believe they are dangerous, that they are giving pedestrians a false sense of security, that there's a flashing warning light to give them hope that they can go ahead and cross more safely. Now they still need to wait until the traffic stops and then cross. And I think it gives a false sense of security, puts the vehicles at a higher priority than the pedestrians. And I don't like them. I think they either need to be an actual signal where it gets people to stop, a stop sign, or nothing at all. And I am just blown away and just disappointed that we installed that at Langer Farms, at Target, Walmart. That needs to be a signalized intersection in my unengineering perspective. And it's only getting worse and worse for folks. both vehicles and pedestrians. And except the other ones, I'd be interested in knowing if there is a standard with stoplights that could replace those horrible yellow block flashing light things, similar to what's in front of Hopkins.
Okay.
That's a question for you to come back with.
Okay, thank you.
And if there's not, then I'd be looking at stop signs when there's a safety issue. If there's a safety issue, make the damn cars stop for people. And there's no requirement for people to stop when those yellow things are flashing and people. So that's my beef. That's my concern. Other comments, questions?
I have my hand raised.
Kim?
Oh, so just to be clear, you're talking about the one on Langer Parkway, not the flashing stop sign up by Schneider. You're just talking about the one that doesn't.
You're right. I think the flashing stop sign, I'm not a fan of it either, but the one design piece of where you've got a flashing yellow light to give pedestrians a false sense of security that traffic is going to do something different.
Well, and I know we did a sting operation not too long ago, so I'd be curious to know how many people we stopped, for one, because that's a key component. But I am definitely also not a fan of that whole intersection. Like, people think they need to stop to turn in left to go to Walmart. People don't stop when the flashing lights are flashing. You're right. Pedestrians just walk off the curb. They don't. A lot of them even stop once they push that button. They just think they have the right of way, and they just go. So it's definitely something to explore, other options.
Russell?
Do we have any data, from the police chief or anybody that indicates that they are in fact unsafe?
I guess I would say, well, it would be great to have the data. I think that they are technically safe. They have met the design, and as Bob and I explained, there's state and federal requirements that have to be followed. That's why there's so much signage, and I don't disagree with you that is there's a lot of signage there, and it's a little confusing. And by law, actually, they do have to stop. Vehicles do have to stop, but they don't necessarily know that they have to stop. So it is a stop sign by law when the lights are flashing, but that doesn't mean the cars stop and understand that. So we can certainly get data on that sting operation, as well as just sort of what PD has found since those have been installed in that area.
Okay,
so
thank you.
It's a really bad federal design if the law says that when they have a yellow warning sign that vehicles are supposed to stop. So there's your core of my argument of how messed up it is.
Because who knows that?
Well,
Excuse me. Doug's hands up. Doug?
Thank you. Well, Russell kind of stole a little bit of half of my question around data, both from the sting operation, but also just from any tickets or more so any acts, if there's been any accidents there, since obviously the tragic one that kind of caused the whole thing to be installed in the first place. I did just have one other comment that I've made many, many times before and will continue to make. It's kind of at the risk of creating more spin, and I don't think there's anything we can do about it. But another part of that intersection and others like it that I think are really, as someone who works for a company who is really good at design, the design of the sign that has a miniature stop sign on it is absolutely horrific and horrible and counterintuitive in every way. The number of cars that I've seen stop there because they see, you're driving and out of the corner of your eye, you see a red octangular stop sign and your reaction is, oh, I'm supposed to stop here. And then you realize, oh, there's not actually a stop sign. And forget, there's no pedestrian around, but now you're causing a danger because the car behind you isn't expecting you to all of a sudden slam on your brakes. So again, I know that's a stupid federal design standard that we have to follow, but I would echo the mayor in that, you know, I don't know who designs these things, but it's the opposite of smart design in that particular case.
Tim?
So yeah, I'm gonna just kind of continue with that theme. I find the design horrible. I'm just going to be more blunt about it. I think it's a solution that was born out of a desire to save money instead of putting up a normal stoplight over the road like you would at any other signalized intersection. I think that I see massive confusion. People driving through there, they try to stop, not supposed to, or they drive right through it when they should be stopping, etc. So, and I think another caveat there is people are pressing a button to light up that sign. So I think getting back to Keith's original point, I think sometimes it gives a false sense of security. My preference would be kind of off shooting from the hip here without seeing the data, is that if we need a crossing for pedestrians that's safe, we should put a stoplight up, just like for a stop sign. I think that current solution is just really confusing. Okay, I'm done.
John?
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of tagging on to that, I mean, I think there's only so much that we can dictate of vehicles in expecting them to follow the rules of the road. And I don't know how much, I mean, I'm all for pedestrian protection, but you know, I mean, I've had the inverse issue on the intersection near my house on Brittany and Sunset. It's a four-way intersection, and there is no stop signs on Sunset. But I don't know how many times I've seen people stop going east-west on Sunset when they're not supposed to and get rear-ended by somebody. So, you know, the inverse of not having a sign causes confusion. And so I think those crosswalks are helpful. And I think if we're going to start looking at if you're going to replace those crosswalks that have the lighted signs with stop signs, I mean, I think then we're going to need to take a larger look at other intersections or other crosswalks as well. The YMCA at Sunset there, that intersection is my mind one of the most dangerous crosswalks we have in this city. And right now we just have an unsignaled, I don't know if I'm using the term correctly here, but it's just a crosswalk there. And we've got people coming off of Sunset on there going way too fast. And I don't think, again, I'm not a traffic engineer, but I don't think we can put a stop sign probably at that intersection, because I think that would end up backing up traffic to 99. So, I mean, I think we're opening up a huge review here on how we want to handle these. And I don't know that we necessarily have to have a standardized, you know, every crosswalk is either this or that. I think crosswalks that need additional lighting or need additional signage should have them. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
So this is really, it's good feedback and it's good to understand. It is a bigger conversation because, and we'll have to look at it in more detail, but I don't know that we could put a full signalized intersection at the Walmart entrance because of the proximity to the Tualatin Sherwood Road intersection. I believe that was looked at when that development was going in. But we'll certainly get back to you on that. And when that development originally went in.
We absolutely can. I mean, if you can have an intersection, a signalized light at Borchers and Edie, which is 10 feet from 99, you can certainly have one at that shopping center, this proximity to 12 and Sherwood. Not to counterject, but I mean, a legal walk it and know that one is longer than the other.
Well, and I just like to add to that. I'm not just thinking about correcting that intersection, and I'm also not going as far as kind of what Sean alluded to and reevaluating every intersection in town. I just don't like that particular style. I mean, because when they press that button, you're expected to stop. So you still have the issue with backing up traffic. But I don't like that style. And I just think we need to look at it going forward as we grow and we have to evaluate other crossings moving forward and what kind of style we put there.
The old soul of a light on front of Hopkins is perfect. It works. Push a button, people stop, the light turns red, kids or adults cross, the light turns green, traffic moves again. Pedestrians are equally as important as vehicles. All right, Doug,
Okay.
last comment for this one?
No.
Cool. Any other feedback we want to give before we go to our joint work session? Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. And we will definitely, we've got a lot that we can pull together and come back with a more robust conversation. So this was really helpful. Thank you very much.
And it would also be good to know if warrants are for all projects or just projects where you can require a development to put it in. So just don't answer it, just put it on the list. All right, so now we're moving on to a joint work session with our Planning Commission members on the Brookman Area Refinement Plan. Julia? And Jean, you want to introduce what planning commissioners are with us?
Yeah, I can do that.
Real quick, sorry. So Erica is going to be doing the presentation, so I'll let Jean do the introductions of the commissioners and then turn it over to Erica.
Great.
I am trying to go through, make sure I get everybody. I see that we have Vice Chair Justin Kai, Commissioner Waidola is here, Commissioner Harsh, Commissioner Taylor I saw.
I'm here.
Commissioner Bance.
Taylor Giles, I'm here.
Taylor Giles. And Commissioner Bance is here.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Erica?
Great. Good evening, councilors and commissioners. Tonight, we're just going to go over the Brookman Addition Concept Plan and review Planning Commission's recommendations, as well as touch on some of the questions that came up at our previous meeting in December. So just a little background, and I know that you received all these slides last week as well. So some of them I might go through fairly quickly, but just a little bit of background about the concept plan. So when the concept plan was originally adopted, Brookman Road was classified as a 3-lane collector, and the intersection of Highway 99 was shifted to the north due to the potential of the I-5 connector project. Since that time, the I-5 connector project hasn't proceeded. Washington County changed Brookman's classification to a 5-lane arterial. And then Sherwood, we updated our TSP to reflect that change. So really what we looked at through this refinement project, some of the questions that came up was, is this still the best alignment to the north? Is it necessary? We knew that properties in the Brookman area were beginning to annex and development was going to happen. And so we needed to develop a cross section of the road that was going to be suitable with the best alignment. And then due to the classification change, there were some concerns in the western sub area of Brookman near 99 that access spacing might not be appropriate for some of the uses in that area. So the meeting purpose for tonight. So we're meeting tonight to review Planning Commission's recommendation and questions raised by council from the last work session in December, where there was, miscommunication on the project's expectations between staff and council. There were questions raised that we needed additional information to address. And some of these questions had to do with retaining the existing alignment and widening to a 5-lane cross section and how this could or could not impact the natural gas facility on Brookman. Would there be a possibility for some kind of grade separated crossing in this area as well? And then there was some concerns about the scope of the project, not including the ability to consider zone changes at this immediate time. And then questions about neighborhood impacts with a realignment. So the concerns that we heard, and I'm just going to go through these. So the first concern that we heard had to do with widening to the 5 lanes to allow for proper spacing from the Northwest Natural Facility. We've engaged Northwest Natural representatives throughout this process. They have reviewed the plan, and right now they don't see any red flags, but we know that when we design the road and go through final road design, we'll have to coordinate with the Northwest Natural Gas again to see if there are any unavoidable constraints. And if there are some engineering solutions out there that we could do. Brookman could shift further to the north in that segment. And we would just have to look at acquiring additional right-of-way possibly in that area, but we won't know that until we get through the final design phase for this project. Is there a potential for an over or under crossing in the existing alignment? This plan, it doesn't preclude an overcrossing. We have reached out to all of our agency partners, Washington County, ODOT Region 1, ODOT Rail, and all agencies believe that a crossing in this area between Brookman and Sherwood West is possible. It definitely could occur, but it will require some additional study. And additional questions need to be asked about this overcrossing or undercrossing, some type of grade separated crossing. So was zoning reviewed in this process? So zoning was analyzed. It was taken into account in the traffic impact analysis, and there were no immediate red flags in the issues with Brookman's retaining its current alignment. Planning Commission, they did have concerns about the high density residential near the neighborhood core area, and would like to see it eventually possibly be rezoned to a lower density. And this can definitely be done. It can be done as through our comprehensive planning process through that wrap up, and also when we take a look at Sherwood West and what the zoning in that area of Sherwood West near Highway 99 is going to look at. So access spacing. So this was brought up and we just wanted to make sure that access spacing along Brookman was going to be sufficient, and it is. So this diagram right here shows access spacing right now between the current access points. It even includes the new subdivisions along Brookman. County access spacing on arterial roadways is 600 feet. And so as you can see, there are some potential possibilities for new accesses along Brookman. And then when new neighborhoods start to develop, that internal street structure will be reviewed at that time. So just a brief timeline about this project. This project really kicked off in the fall and winter of 2019. We met we had stakeholder interviews with numerous folks along in the Brookman area. In the winter, we had numerous agency agency meetings with our partner agencies. In the spring, we had an open house planned the same week that COVID put the damper on things. And we turned it around quickly, and we had an online open house for a couple weeks for people to participate and to see the preferred alternatives. We had several work sessions with Planning Commission and Council. Planning Commission held a hearing on this matter in November, and then we had a work session with the Council in December. And we have tentatively scheduled a City Council hearing date for the first meeting in March. And ultimately, this project needs to be wrapped up by the end of March per our IGA with Metro. So the project purpose this evening, like I said, we are here, project purpose. So we're really here to clarify the Brookman's Road alignment in the cross sections, what the road is going to look like. We wanted to make Brookman safe for all users, vehicle, bikes, and pedestrians. And we needed to make sure that our concept plans were aligned at the city and county level, including making sure that ODOT and ODOT Rail were informed of the project as well. Also, we looked at zoning, and then we needed to determine what the roadway was going to look like in the interim and long term. So this shows the current Brookman plan from 2009. Brookman is that black line along the bottom of that map there, and it swings north through that neighborhood commercial area and up into the light industrial area where it meets Highway 99, and it across the railroad tracks at a 90-degree angle, because at that time, that is how ODOT Rail informed us to how Brookman should cross those tracks. So when we met with stakeholders along Brookman in the fall of 2019, Brookman Road, what we heard was Brookman Road doesn't feel safe. The future needs to accommodate growth, but not be overbuilt. It needs to maintain its scenic aesthetic. Speeds should be reduced, and it should connect the city in a meaningful way. So moving on to our preferred alignments, or the alignments that we looked at, the option 1 in red maintains the current existing alignment. Option 2 in blue shows the old concept plan where Brookman shifts to the north. And then our third option in green is an option that we looked at on the east side of Brookman that would help alleviate that curve and have a better alignment with Lad Hill Road. So moving on to our preferred alternatives for the design of the road, the cross sections. So in the current concept plan, Brookman was a neighborhood collector, a 3-lane collector. That's that first image on the left-hand side of your screen. And in the middle is our preferred option, which is the preferred interim design of Brookman. And it's a 3-lane transitional road. And what we're doing now through our work with the subdivisions that are being developed along Brookman, we are making sure that we get enough right-of-way for a future 5-lane arterial of Brookman, because ultimately that is the future vision for Brookman, is the 5-lane arterial. But by preserving the right-of-way for the 5 lanes, we can ensure that the 3-lane transitional road can be built with the right-of-way that we acquire. So the western sub area of Brookman. This just shows right here, again, the existing alignment and the recommended option at a signalized intersection with Highway 99. Also, the western sub area, we looked at the zoning. There weren't any red flags with the zoning when it was incorporated into the traffic impact analysis. When we took this to Planning Commission did have some concerns about cut through traffic through the neighborhood to the north. And we developed some language that we put into the plan, stating that traffic calming measures will be evaluated at the time of new development. But as you can see here, Brookman in its current alignment still allows for that neighborhood node and that light commercial, like business park uses along Highway 99. So in the central sub area of Brookman, it remains the same as where it is now. And our preferred approach in the interim is to construct that 3-lane transitional roadway and obtaining enough right of way to the north where ultimately the 5-lane arterial could be built. So here in the eastern subsection, sub area, we have Brookman, and we try to alleviate that curve, that sharp turn that I think everybody knows about along Brookman, and to really lessen impacts to existing structures in that area as well. So overall, the Brookman concept plan update, we're really looking at the preferred alignment of Brookman where it is now, making sure that we retain enough right-of-way for a future 5-lane facility, but in the interim, construct the 3-lane transitional cross-section. And then as we move forward, we heard from the community. There's the community aspiration for some type of grade separated crossing between Brookman and Sherwood West. And speaking to all of our agency partners, this could possibly occur in the existing preferred alignment scenario. But it will just require some additional analysis and study to address questions. So further action is needed. We're going to have a comprehensive study of a future crossing to connect Brookman and Sherwood West. And we need to identify this project in the city's TSP and including future funding strategies. And of course, I mean, there's just some unknowns at this time. Sherwood West isn't in the urban growth boundary. So there's just quite a bit of questions we need answered for this to occur. So looking ahead, we can definitely relook at the zoning in the western segment of Brookman through the post-comprehensive plan process in conjunction with the zoning that's going to occur in Sherwood West as well. We can definitely explore grade separated crossing in this area. We can definitely explore a speed study on Brookman that it could reduce the speed on Brookman Road. And then we'll continue to work with Washington County on various safety improvements as well. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Erica. Out of the gate, I have zero interest, based on the information we have on the west end of this. Until we know more, I have zero interest in supporting changing the west end of Brookman. Zero interest. The rest is fine. We have to look, once we figure out the west end, I think looking at the zoning is appropriate, as the planning commission has all mentioned. And of course, for folks that live there now or in the future, there's zero timeline for when that interim road will actually get built. Right?
Correct. We don't have a time frame for that interim road.
Yeah. All right. Tim, you had your hand up first. Or not? Tim, you're muted.
Sorry, folks. I was just going to mention that I think it's important that we do take a look at that grade separated crossing, just to the point where we can get it in our transportation plan and put a stake in the ground in terms of how we want Sherwood to grow. Because this is thinking, we're probably not going to get something there for 10, 15 years, but we are becoming a separated city. So every opportunity we have to make sure that we're creating access east to west as we grow, I think is really important. I also know that Washington County has ambitions for that road to connect all the way out to I-5. Clackamas County right now, I don't think has those ambitions, but that probably is something that is going to happen down the road, and we need to be thinking about what that looks like in those terms as well.
Yep, I agree completely. And there's this Northwest Natural pipe that goes right along it that is a minor hazard.
Keith, I think Jean raised her hand there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chair, Jean, yep. And then Taylor.
Sorry, I don't know if I know how to raise my hand or if we have that option in the version that we have on this. So, Mayor, can you provide clarity on your statement that you don't want change on the west end? Are you saying you want to go with the original road alignment or keep the road where it is right now? Because I have a couple of comments that.
So because of the missing data, in my opinion, to understand what is or isn't possible with a grade separated crossing, it'll be easier to stay with the current master plan on the west end because you're avoiding that natural gas pipeline.
Okay.
That's the simple point at this juncture for me.
Okay, and then Eric, if you could go to page or slide 15, I'll just express where my concern was when the road was moving significantly south based on the master plan instead of so the master plan had Brookman Road connecting very close to that orange section. So there's red, orange, and then there's orange, and that orange is high density residential. And I would envision that from the original concept plan that people anticipated that high density residential accessing Brookman and going straight onto Highway 99. And if the roads moved south back to the original, then my comments at the commission level were that provides for all the high density residential, especially those apartments or whatever that are built north of that greenway, to do cut through traffic north through the Middleton area. And my concern being that the stakeholder comments were for people in the Brookman area or just within 1,000 feet of it, and potentially the people in the Middleton cut through area up through to Sunset would not have been part of that stakeholder comment. And so I appreciate that the staff added comments about looking at traffic calming and ensuring that the livability of the neighbors to the north that are existing is reviewed as projects come through. And so while I see that the grade separated crossing is really important, I also think making sure we understand the density and how many houses we're putting in may impact what we have already. So that was my comment. I appreciate you allowing me to make that this evening.
Absolutely. Great points.
Thank you.
And part of mine was just wanting additional clarification on your statement. As a private citizen using that road, with the connection to Lad Hill, that was a big concern of the commission just because of the double blind curvatures of the road. And so I just didn't, I wanted some more clarification on your point of changing the connecting points. And I'm understanding that it's only on the 99 side. Did you have any issue on the Lad Hill side?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
The concept plan never should have been as crooked as it was out of the gate.
Yeah, part of me thinks that was made by a cow path at one point or something, and we just paved it and called it a road.
Yeah. Yep. Tim, your hand's up again.
And it's down.
Other comments and thoughts? I don't see hands, but just unmute yourself and speak up. Doug?
Yeah, really just to echo, I think, things that both you and Commissioner Simpson said. I seem to recall that when we met on this at council last time, it might have been you, but Mr. Mayor, I think someone had said, do we have something, I think the feedback we got about the gas line was they said it's not a problem. And then we asked, well, can we get that in writing? And I didn't hear that we've gotten that in writing. So I think that continues to be a concern because it could be quite costly later if we start building a bunch of stuff and assume it's going to be fine and then it's not. So I think to your point, I think we need some more firm resolution on that part of the road and where that's going to intersect with 99 and the gas line and how it's going to cross 99, and all of those things need to be much more definitive to me before I feel comfortable. And then I'll just echo the concerns on the zoning. I think we talked about this quite a bit at both. It was talked about at Planning Commission as well as at Council, and that with the significant road realignment that does bring up concerns around the zoning and a significant influx of residential through existing neighborhoods, or even for that matter, commercial traffic accessing through existing residential neighborhoods into the commercial zones down here. I think both of those are concerns that need to be looked at a little further. And then just beyond that, I mean, I think this zoning mix was put into place, 12, 13 years ago when this was passed. And I think a lot of things have changed. So I think it warrants, more consideration, in my opinion.
Eric, can I ask, I know we have asked for a letter from Northwest Natural and you were working on getting that. Can you share the status of that? And then I have one more comment after that.
Yes. And so we have reached out to Northwest Natural Gas for, written comment, and I expect written comment to come in, prior to the first hearing on March 2nd.
And then I guess as I'm hearing the comments about the not realigning, I think, and I need to talk more with Erica about this as well, but I mean, essentially the plan is to realign it, and this proposal is to not realign it, essentially. So if you did not make that change, essentially what you are staying with is a 5-lane arterial as it's currently shown, which Erica is showing you. Yep. And that's fine, but you might have development that comes in, and that is what we are going to be working towards. And so I just want to make sure that if that is the direction that ultimately is decided by council,
based on the facts that are presented before me, that is my only conclusion that I can reach that is reasonable. And it might not align with what the county wants to do today, but then to back up a couple points, Erica gave this timeline. If we miss the IGA deadline with Metro, does that mean we forfeit Metro's money? What's the deal with the deadline? What's the significance of the deadline? what's the financial penalty of the deadline?
That is a great question, and I would just need to confirm with Metro staff what the exact penalties would be.
In writing would be good too.
Right.
Okay, Tim, your hand's up again.
Yeah, I just to echo that, I think the zoning, I agree with what others have said, we need to take a deeper look at it for a lot of reasons. The current plan is old, the alignment's going to impact it, and all the other issues that were brought up. There were some other things we talked about briefly too that I think we need to continue to pursue, and in terms of safety on that road, even as it exists today, as that development goes in. Could you go to the slide that shows the developments going in? I can't remember which one it is. I think it was the slide that had the spacing, access spacing on it. Or that one works.
No.
Sorry.
No.
That's all right.
No.
There you go. That one works. But we have a huge development going in with very little frontage on that road. So their portion of the upgrade to that road is going to be very, very minimal.
Well, they're paying a lot towards it.
Are they paying a lot toward it?
Yeah.
So, but I think we need to continue to work with the county on safety even today. We need to look at speed limits. You mentioned the traffic study. I believe under the new Oregon State statute, we have some ability to work with the county to lower that by 5 miles an hour even without a traffic study, if I understand the new law correctly. But I would just want to make sure those other initiatives don't get lost. But going back to the zoning and the alignment, I agree with the mayor that we shouldn't change it at this point, but we need to dig in and figure out the answer to these questions and get it correct.
Yeah, like I said, the east side of this is simple. The main stretch of this road is straightforward. It's still all the questions about the west end, and I'm not prepared to support a change until we do more work. And if Metro needs us to make a decision, otherwise we forfeit the money, then my vote is not to. Will be. It's since we don't vote here in work session, but my position is to not alter the concept plan on the west end until to meet the deadline, and then we do more work. Russell, your hand's up.
Yeah, I agree. I think because of the importance of that west end and how it will interface with, future like Sherwood West areas and, and the crossing. And I feel like I don't want to be pressured by Metro either. And so I would like to know, well, what exactly does that mean? And can we get an extension? If not, what exactly does that mean? And let's think about that, because I think where Brookman interfaces with 99 is going to be such a crucial point for us, such crucial point. So I don't think we should rush this out. I think we need to get it right.
And could I just add to that real quick? I agree. There's another piece of this that we haven't talked about yet, but how does Brookman align all the way through Sherwood West and out toward Hillsborough? Because one of the conversations we've been having with the county is pushing traffic off Elwert and farther south and around town. So I think that comes into this question as well. And what do those future alignments look like? Julie, I know we had one meeting with the county to talk about that, but that deserves more research as we plow through this as well.
Yep, well said. Other comments and thoughts?
Mr. Vance has his hand up.
I don't think my version has the hand.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah, just one thought that kind of strikes me regarding the zoning is, with House Bill 2001 coming down the pike, even if we moved it to low density, I don't know really quite, we have code and stuff to figure out, but I don't know quite what we get. We may end up with more density than we bargained for. And so just thinking about where we put our streets going forward, that should probably be a consideration as well. That if we plan for streets anticipating a certain number of people living in an area, and then what ends up coming in is a bunch of quadplexes or something like that, that could present an issue for us as well as we think about the zoning and street placement.
Yep, well said. Others?
Yeah, I have one more question.
Yeah.
Can we see, is there a map? Maybe we won't have to have it for tonight's meeting, but can we see where exactly that gas pipeline is? Is it obvious and I just don't know where it is, or?
It pretty much
Is it
runs
right
just
on-
south of the road,
Oh, does it?
or along the road.
Does it go straight over or under 99? Does it turn down there or does it go across?
It goes under 99. It goes between. It goes in front of the Baptist church,
Right.
under 99, and loops around, and goes behind the high school, new high school.
Right.
It cuts through the high school property.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the same pipeline. So that is. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Yeah.
Other thoughts? Everyone like the green end on the east side of the road? Any concerns with that? Everyone seems to be happy.
It's better than what we have now. I
Yeah.
definitely don't like what we have now. It's a dangerous
Yeah.
road right there. So
Mayor,
There was a bunch of, I'm sorry, go ahead, Julia.
oh, I was just gonna, so my thought, and I certainly, you guys still have this conversation, but I think Erica and I will talk with Metro about, I know she already explored the idea of an extension and did not get a warm reception, but we'll explore that a little bit more. Assuming that is not a super viable option, I think what I'm envisioning is, because we do need to have information about the cross section and the eastern, or the eastern end, and get as much updated as we can, and then we just leave the west end as is, with maybe a footnote that says that's still being explored. And so I think we can move something forward if we need to, and meet our commitments to Metro, and still not point you guys in a direction you're not comfortable with. But we'll see what Metro says further. So just wanted to kind of put that out there.
I appreciate that. Yeah, also I don't want to be a bungee cord or whatever the proper term is of us saying, oh, well, let's move it, to what staff has suggested of back on the east end, on the west end, back in front of the Baptist church, and then we do to meet the Metro deadline, and then 6 months later we realize, oh no, it really should be this other place, and whip it back. And that's just mean to property owners that have assumed the blue line on the east end, so we should stick it there until we have enough data to agree to do something different or not.
That was my only point, was I just want to make sure you were talking about the property owners, because in our meetings there was quite a few concerns from property owners in that area, specifically on the eastern end. So that's all I was going to try to bring up, was make sure we were considering that as the least impactful. I realize that smoothing out the corner, makes it easier traffic and a safer stretch of road, but that was a lot of citizen outcry about that.
Yeah, none of those on the east end, none of the options are going to be popular with folks that live over there. None.
That's why I'm not the mayor.
Well, and at the moment, none of them live in town, so but the blue and the green options are the least impactful to those properties. We'd have to do a little analysis to see if the blue is less impactful than the green, but they're all impactful. Rick?
Yeah, quick question, and maybe for Jean and for Erica, but as this came up before us, I recall some restrictions with, I think it was the option 2 alignment with right in, right out only for access to the road. Am I confusing that with something different? or were there some other challenges with the access to Brookman with the realignment based off ODOT requirements?
I think, if I may, I think what you may be referring to is that at one point in time, this was quite some time ago, I think there was some pushback or some direction that ODOT was only going to allow right in, right out from Brookman, but I think that was resolved quite some time ago, and it is approved to be signalized.
That is correct.
All right, thanks for clarifying.
Very good. Anything else? Joe, Julia, anything else from your guys' perspective?
I don't have anything.
All crickets on this side.
No, I guess the one comment, this is actually very helpful to hear everyone's continuing concerns. And I think the mayor's suggestion is an alternative that works because we haven't solved the West End yet and needs more work. And we just need to work with Metro and find out what the implications are. So, and we need to get that letter from Northwest Natural.
Yeah, see how wishy-washy it is or very firm. And do we have a similar letter already from ODOT Rail?
Yes. So ODOT Rail and ODOT Region 1 and 2 are working on a combined letter of comments.
So no, not yet. They're working on it.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
So-
I do have one more question, Mayor.
Yeah, we got time.
So, Erica, Julia, on the east end, I'm sure it's because of grade. It seems like, you know, if that road, the connection to Lad Hill was a little further south, it would be going through fewer houses. Is it because of the grade? Is that why it's kind of, those are the options?
Yes. So we definitely took a look at the grade and cut and fill and where it's placed now and the preferred, our preferred alignment. Took a look at all the impacts.
But it's grade because Lad Hill goes up.
It's grade.
Right there, isn't it? Yeah. All right. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Great question. And generally speaking, what do we think in today's dollars, if we had to throw a dart at a dartboard price wheel, to make the temporary road of Brookman just a straight portion from where on the west end where the blue meets the red and down before the green starts. Is that a $5 million problem, a $10 million problem? Any idea? That's curious because that's going to impact our timing. You know, we'll be knocking on the doors of Washington County to do the project unless we can't get them to do it. Or
Mayor, which end were you referring to? Sorry,
just the middle stretch. You know, they'll start to get some of this thing built as housing goes in there. That's going to be the big, you know, pressure is when is this going to get built?
Yeah, I'll have to look at the, I don't know off the top of my head, but we do have that information from when we did the original plan. It's probably gone up since then. So I could get you that information on what the cost estimates were at the time.
And was this when Washington County went down the path of their creative financing for these high growth areas, when they did the Hillsborough South or South Hillsborough and the West Tigard and Beaverton projects where they were able to capture all those MISTIP dollars for improvements in that project or those projects. Did we do that for Brookman?
No, we didn't. They were really focused on the areas that you mentioned. At the time, it was kind of discussed that Brookman, because we weren't, and I mean, there was a lot that wasn't happening in that area, so they didn't feel that there was a huge push to do that. But there was some discussion about potentially having another round, but that conversation hasn't occurred. And, you know, it was a different land use and transportation director. And so I'd have to talk with Stephen about whether or not there's any appetite to kind of do another round of those.
So that'd be important because certainly Sherwood West will require it. And I would hope that we can do it in Brookman. So it's this creative thing that happened after we were mostly built out, which put more extra money into those high growth areas of South Hillsborough, South Beaverton, and West Tigard that we'll want to capitalize on as well. Or the county can just be in their generosity and their largesse will just build it with everybody else's money. I don't know. Okay. Anything else for the good of this topic? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate your hard work, planning commissioners. 2021 is going to be an interesting time with your docket of finishing the comp plan, addressing House Bill 2001, looking at design standards for residential, and I'm sure there's other things on your plate that I'm not thinking of at the time, but even those three things are enormous.
How about our regular application hearings that we have to do just as being part of the planning commission?
Yeah, your day-to-day work, you mean?
Our day-to-day work added to the fun of the long-term planning and state mandated and metro mandated and yes, the commission has a lot on their plate. So
I think the mayor's.
it.
Oh, sorry, man.
Oh, go ahead.
I think the mayor is trying to drive us newer people off. With the,
I was
So
just about to
there's
say
no-
how much we appreciate your volunteering for the job.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, yes, it is a lot of work, but it is a time where your work is very impactful, and so it can be exciting. You know, a little not easy, but I appreciate all of your efforts.
And I have to say, Mayor, that we have, even though we have new commissioners, we have very engaged commissioners. Every one of them reads the packet, engages, and is not afraid to ask questions during our hearing process. And so we're learning as we go, but we have a lot to learn, but we do it at a rapid pace right at the hearing level. So it's been a pleasure to work with all the new commissioners and the commissioners that have been there for a while. We've really had a big lift to do. So it's been a pleasure to get to meet the new people who are helping all of us that have been on for a while. So thank you.
You bet. And with any luck, maybe in May or June, we can get off this Zoom thing and actually meet in a room together.
Oh, please, please, please.
Pizza. I miss our pizza nights.
If school board meets in person.
Yeah, you know, if we could do it, we have to get in a real big room.
Yeah.
So we're going to be stuck with this for a little bit yet. All right. Well, we'll finish a little bit early. Enjoy your evening, planning commissioners. Feel free to tune into YouTube if you want to watch our short city council meeting. But I'm sure we got plans with family. So
thank you, everybody.
We will adjourn.
Thanks.